And I am in bed at 3 in the morning, and it's great. It's great. I'm actually one of those people who likes waking up for just like a moment in the middle of the night because I can acknowledge I'm in bed and it feels so good. But at the back of my mind, I know something's wrong. Something's a little bit off. Like, why did I wake up? It's not my blood sugar. It's not the upstairs neighbor who has insomnia walking around or their corgi who also probably has insomnia. What is this thing? And I feel it. It's like a tension. It's like a tension in the room. Holding silent until Mama, Dada, I had a bad dream. And I don't know which of my kids, because I got 2 for some reason. It's a nasal, high-pitched, lacking in any vocal tone. Mama, Dad, and I gotta get out of bed. I gotta get up, throw off the covers, and I'm running down the hall. It's NDG, it's a long hall. And I'm running down the hall and into the kids' room. My kids, they share a room. They're almost too old to do, Mama, Dad, I can't stop to think about it. I just run over to the bunk bed. I look down, I look up, I look down, I look up. They're both lying down perfectly still. And then I notice that one of them's lips is moving. Owen, on the top bunk, my 8-year-old, is, Mama, Dad, I had a bad dream. And this is a thing they've done for like 6 years now. Ella started it, Owen picked it up. There's no fear. There's no anxiety. There's just this klaxon call of, Mama, Dad, I had a bad dream. And now we all do it. I've got to get him to be quiet before everybody else wakes up. But the dog is asleep. Ella is asleep. My wife is asleep. I'm awake. He is awake. And I'm like, Owen, you had a bad dream. What happened? He just kind of looks at me. I don't know. I'm like, well, do you want something? Black jump? And I look around the room. Black jump is this giant, like a giant stuffed dog. And I'm like crawling around on the floor, looking for Black jump, and I find him, and he's huge, and I give him to him. I say, okay, buddy, are you okay? He says, yeah, what do we do now? And I'm like, I don't know, buddy, go back to sleep? He said, oh, okay. And we're done. It's great. I guess it's great. Like, that's fine. It's not screaming. It's not up all night. It's not a terror. It's not monsters. It's not, I don't have to look in the closet. Ella is still asleep somehow. But you know, look, when I say I am a person who has lived without fear, I want you to know that that's not exactly true at all. There are a lot of fears I have in this world. I'm afraid of authority. I'm afraid of getting in trouble. I'm afraid of people not liking me very much. But like, other than that, not a lot going on in the fear department. Like, okay, so growing up, I had nightmares. We all had nightmares. But the 3 nightmares I remember waking up in the middle of the night with a nightmare about skeletons. The skeletons were just there, like they were in a room. It's like I had busted backstage onto the set of a 1940s Walt Disney cartoon, the one with the dancing skeletons, but I was after the cartoons, so like the skeletons were like having a smoke break or something. I'm like, they're kind of pissed that I was there. And I'm like, hi, and they're like, what? I'm like, I'm sorry. And that was my dream about skeletons. And the other dream I know really well is the dream I had about ants, like giant ants. And to set your expectations a bit, these were not giant skyscraper ants nor giant car-size ants. No. These were ants about the size of a large dog. So that's weird. Like, that's big. But these ants, they were so mean. They just came after me all the time and took my stuff. And in my dream, that included my girlfriend, whatever that meant as a child. My girlfriend was taken by ants, so I had to chase them. And I went to the ants' hideout, which was obviously the Montreal biodome. And I confronted the queen ant in the middle of the boreal forest, where you would find the queen ant. And, you know, in the midst of our fight, I turned to this ant and I said, why are you ants always so after me? And the queen ant looked at me with like her horrible clacking antenna, and she said, in a human voice, she said, we hate you so much. You hate me? Like, my nightmares are about letting people settle down. My nightmare is about not being able to solve problems. The nightmares I had even as an adult with kids. Like, you have nightmares about your kids. You're afraid they're gonna fall off things or from places. I have dreams like we get kidnapped by aliens, except the nightmare is not being kidnapped by aliens. The nightmare is me and Owen have to wait in line for the bathroom on the alien ship, and then we finally get into the bathroom, and then Owen falls down like a pipe, like just some alien pipe. I'm like, this is gross and small, and how do I get to him? And that's my nightmare. And look, bragging about fear, not having fear, like that is a pretty privileged thing, but I gotta tell you, like I love horror movies and horror stories, and I wanna dream up nightmares, and all I come up with are like disappointed skeletons crossing their arms. And that's my life. My kids have some interesting fears. My kids have these nightmares they wake up from, and nothing really happened. My kids need to have stuffed animals with them all the time to protect from nightmares. That makes sense. That's probably why they don't have anything more serious than just sleep disturbances. They've got 20 or 30 each, and because they switch top bunk, bottom bunk every night, there's a lot of nightmare before bed. Where's Monkey? Where's Ducky? Where's Stegosaurusy? And you gotta find all of them and get them onto the right bunk. And the most terrifying thing of all is when one of these stuffed animals slips behind the bunk bed. We got this nice wooden bunk bed that, because it's an NDG apartment, there's no straight lines. So it's a good foot away from the wall, and you can just get stuffed animals or used Kleenexes or socks pinned behind the bunk bed. And at first this was terrible. The kids were like, oh no, Ducky is trapped. But they needed a name for this place, and we'd been reading The Hobbit, so they started referring to it as the Crack of Doom, which then made it a little funny, both because Crack of Doom is intense, and also because crack means butt. And then Crack of Doom suddenly turned slang-wise into crack-a-doo. And it's hard to get scared if things have fallen in the crack-a-doo. But this is my life. I'm moving Ducky and Black Jump and Bunny and all of these steggies up and down and up and down. Every now, oh no, the crack-a-doo! Something's fallen in the crack-a-doo. Daddy, you have to save it. But you know, I'm trying to draw boundaries because they're 8 and 10 now. So I won't go into the crack-a-doo anymore. Bad dreams or no. And the other night, Owen and I are like trying to get him ready for bed, and he's moving things around, and he happens to peek into the crack-a-doo, and he says, Daddy, everyone's in the crack-a-doo. Molasses is in the crack-a-doo. Ducky is in the crack-a-doo. Puddle is in the crack-a-doo. Baby Yoda is in the crack-a-doo. Baby Yoda is a giant stuffy. Like, he has clearly been planted in this crack-a-doo because there's no way he got there on his own. And I'm like, buddy, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to save them. And so Owen, all shorty of him, starts like projecting himself into the crack-a-doo to try and extract whatever stuffies he can. And at some point, oh, Daddy, I'm stuck. And I like pull him out like a baby carrot, and he goes back to it. He's like, oh no, there's still more, and he goes back in. And by the third time, I'm like, okay. I'm setting boundaries. I'm not getting your stuffies, and I'm not pulling you out of the crack-a-doo, man. If you get stuck there, that's on you. And sure enough, he dives back in for Steggy or whatever, and he's like, oh, I'm stuck. I'm like, okay, bye. And I go to the kitchen to start washing dishes. And after like a minute, Ella comes into the room, and she's like, Daddy, you should come back into the room. I'm like, honey, I'm setting boundaries. I'll be there in a minute. And so she goes back to the room. And then another minute later, she comes back in. And she's like, no, Daddy, you really need to come back in the room. I'm like, what is going on? And I can hear him. He's like, Daddy, I'm in the crack-a-doo. But it's when I step into the bedroom that I realize his Daddy, I'm in the crack-a-doo is in between like halting sobs. Like he is deeply upset because he is a small boy deeply trapped upside down behind the bed, and I have walked away from him. I did that. And I rush over and I pluck the little carrot out, and I'm like, oh, buddy, it's okay. It's okay. The crack-a-doo is fine. Everything's fine. Everything's good. And I'm thinking about what he's going to tell his therapist. I'm thinking about what I'm going to tell my therapist. And I'm thinking about all of these fears and thinking about my stupid privileged desire to have some. Because in reality, there are so many ways we can be small and powerless in this world. And there are so many ways to be terrified. And scary is awesome. Scary is funny. Scary is fun. Except for those times when it's not. And I really think that difference, that is what the Crackadoo is really all about. Thank you.